The monochrome Argentine film begins with a news anchor remarking that it will be a rough week for President Velasco. After he says a few more words, the television program, 60 minutes before midnight, concludes. We see a guard walking somewhere at night, shining his flashlight. Suddenly, he hears a distant scream. He fearfully points his flashlight in its direction. He rushes to a man with his gun pointed at him, yelling for him to approach the guard. But we don't get a glimpse of what happens further. The next scene has a man named Jorge, smoking. He puts out his cigarette before having another man come toward him. He hands Jorge a package and says it is from von Merkens's courtesy. He tells him Jorge's friend who went to the farms will know what to do with it. Moving along, he asks Jorge if he has sent anyone to the address this man gave him. Jorge replies he did. He cryptically says they have A and C, yet B is still missing. They get on the subject of a man named Marcato. The other man questions if Jorge is clever enough to have Marcato not talk about his regular delusional nonsense. Marcato can give enough material to knock President Velasco. Jorge replies, "They are not going to knock out the president. It is not necessary." He thinks Velasco has the entire public opinion against him, so there is no way he will get re-elected. He also says they were hoping von Merkens would give them something more. However, the other man says it all rests in Jorge's hands. Jorge says there is a phrase he can't get out of his head. He doesn't know if he heard it or dreamed it. He thinks Merkens could have said it. The other man knows the phrase he is thinking of. It is, "The future is over." Its meaning is straightforward. If one blows it, it's over. Elsewhere, a man named Lucio gets a ring on the phone from Natalia. He asks if anyone has followed her and she replies with a negative. He asks if someone named Danny has given something to her, to which Natalia replies, yes. Thirdly, Lucio asks if she knows how to use it. He gets another yes. It is all very cryptic at the moment. After the phone call, another woman tells Lucio he should not have sent Natalia because she is too young and has no experience. We observe 3 people in this room, all waiting for a television program to begin. When it does, we learn it is sponsored by von Merkens Laboratories. The program is the one we saw at the start of the film. Its anchorman says this will be their final show. The constant threats they receive and the drop from almost all of their sponsors prevent their continuity. He thanks von Merkens Laboratories for being there today. Going into the topic, the man says that 1 year ago, they started to investigate one of the biggest and darkest stories. It is a story they are hoping to conclude. 9 months ago, a guard by the name of Manuel Ramirez found a lifeless, desecrated person. We see a man lying inside a drawn circle that looks very occult. First, Manuel thought he saw the culprit. Then he contradicts himself and perishes. Interestingly, the person he found had no ID. In a few weeks, he was declared a John Doe. The corpse was reduced before it was dropped into a pit. A few months after Manuel's demise, one of the anchorman's former students reaches out to their producers. He is Jorge, who met Manuel before the latter's demise. He got some information from the man. Manuel told him he kept a souvenir from that night. It was something he didn't give to the police. The anchorman takes out a notebook and shows if this is what it was. Manuel told Jorge that the living man he found at his job site vanished right in front of his eyes, leaving the notebook behind. It is half journal, half binnacle. It has parts that seem to be in a language the anchorman's team cannot identify. Since they started investigating leads on the notebook, they have been constantly discredited. Now they are being fired. Tonight they have 3 guests: Senator Matias Linares, sociologist Daniel, and Adrian Marcato, the vice president of Kingdom Corporate. It is a company with the fastest growing rate in Argentina in the past decade. 2 of the 3 guests appear in the notebook. During the commercial, Lucio asks the woman Maria, "What is the general review?" She says the anchorman will read the 4 points from the file, and Marcato is supposed to confirm them. The first point is that Marcato met President Velasco in college. When they graduated, they co-founded Kingdom Corporate. But Velasco doesn't appear on any records. The second point is that Kingdom Corporate has funded Velasco's campaign. The third is that the company funded many operations in favor of the government. Lastly, the notebook links the company with the hitman Manuel Saw, along with many trending politicians. If they could make Marcato confirm this, it would force a certain judge to read the files and open a case. The man named Abel says if it fails, they will go with von Merkens's plan. Jorge enters the room, giving his team the package from Merkens. With the return of the program, the anchorman says he wants to read something. He says he always asks the team he works with to write daily journals, describing every detail of their experience on the case. Something that does not look significant can turn out to be similar in importance to an official statement. The report he is holding is signed by a man whose name is Eduardo Alonso. The anchorman wants the people to know Eduardo was never part of the team, and his report describes events that never happened. He reads that Eduardo keeps having nightmares every night. On the day of writing, he went to see the senator with Maria. The senator's name appears in the notebook. He has a dream in which the corpse Manuel found appears gathered with other people Eduardo knows. Although they seem worried, they also seem satisfied and proud. Soon they each go their own way. The John Doe takes a taxi. Now, he has become the writer of the letter. Eduardo writes that he sees and feels everything the John Doe does. The taxi driver takes a route he is not familiar with. In the meantime, Maria is in another room, looking at a recorder. The anchorman keeps reading that Eduardo tries to awaken, but he can't. At the end of the dream, he realizes he is on fire. We see a shadow behind Maria. Moving on to the guests of the program, the senator says he remembers his meeting with Maria. At this moment, the phone rings for Lucio to answer it. Since no one is on the other line, he puts down the receiver. Abel worriedly says if someone knows their phone number, they know their address. Lucio tells him not to be paranoid. Abel asks Jorge if he saw anyone suspicious outside. Jorge replies he hasn't seen any warlocks. Then, Abel goes to the kitchen where Maria should be, and he doesn't see her. He hears a sound in another room, prompting him to slowly walk in its direction, while he calls out to Maria. He sees a being sitting in the shadow with bright eyes, thus he has to cover his face in shock. Once he uncovers it, the being is no longer present. A sudden bang on the nearby door startles him. Maria says she's locked in the room, so Abel opens the door. He asks what was she doing in there, and she says she heard a noise. Back to the television, the anchorman says the senator's phone number appears in the notebook. He asks the man why that is. The senator answers that it is because he is a public figure. His information is public due to him working for the people. The anchorman asks him if he knows the man in the photo that is displayed. It is the John Doe, says the senator. Soon Mercado speaks, telling the anchorman to stop torturing the senator with such questions. He says the senator was used for one purpose before he was completely erased. The senator takes issue with being talked about in this manner. Switching to the team outside the TV, Maria asks Jorge if he called her from the backyard. He says he didn't, but she does not believe him. When Mercado asks the senator how many kids he has, the latter says he has 2 daughters. Interestingly, Mercado says he has 3. He forgot about the one he gave away. She is Sofia, who was 2 years old. Maria remarks the senator has 2 daughters and even names them. The man gets angry, saying Mercado is lucky they are on TV, or he would make him suffer. Mercado tells the senator he will start to remember a little more of his daughter every day, yet all the details will be fake. He adds that the mind wants to grieve, but it cannot. Furthermore, he says the senator's daughter is lost forever, which causes the senator to stand in anger. He is forced to leave the program. During the commercial, Jorge hears the phrase, "The future is over." It talks about the main energy source that makes the world turn, the children. Meanwhile, Maria calls someone. She says she is looking for a certain judge's phone number. She starts to say she's the producer for the program currently playing, and the call ends. Moving forward, Abel tells his team that Merkins has sent them the package. They must see what is inside of it in addition to what he says. What he is holding is tannin root, a highly hallucinogenic substance with a fast effect. It is used for a specific ritual. On paper are the indications for the ritual written by Merkins. Abel says there are 4 doses, 1 for each of them. He also says they should take them now. Jorge says he thought Mercado would give those clues on air on how to proceed. However, he is starting to think the man has no idea. He believes this was Merkins's plan all along. Abel thinks Merkins's plan is for them to take the tannin root to discover where Natalia will go. Maria refuses to do it. We learn Abel already takes his portion. Jorge says Merkins never lets them down, so he agrees with this plan. Abel tells Maria that if she saw what he previously caught a glimpse of in the farms, she would not be this stubborn. Angered, she asks him when he is going to tell her what he saw there. Following this, we see Jorge and Lucio consume the tannin root. Maria does not do it. One of them says they won't all feel the same. They will start to feel weird very slowly, along with hearing and seeing things that aren't there. Yet, it is supposed to be a harmless experience. Soon Lucio answers the ringing phone. Natalia tells him she thinks she saw the same car twice. He instructs her to start taking note of their license plates. She says she will call back in 15 minutes. Returning to the television, the anchorman asks Mercado why he thinks his name is in the notebook. It is a former partner's notebook, he answers. Mercado isn't sure about who the John Doe was, but he could sense who he was. Regarding Kingdom Corporate, he chose to get some distance from it due to a disagreement on a certain matter. Once the anchorman wants to know more about his current occupation, the sociologist Daniel starts to talk. He says Mercado is the leader of an apocalyptic cult and a con artist. Daniel claims the man convinced many people to follow him under the menace that the world is nearing its end. Mercado replies he is not a con artist, for he has helped many people. Daniel adds that those who follow him think he is a warlock. He has statements from numerous people who have previously attended Mercado's farms. Those people claim to have come back differently. The anchorman is interested to know if one is born a warlock, or if one learns to become a warlock. Mercado says he was initiated at the young age of 7 by his grandmother, who was a witch. One day he found her standing on a circle drawn on the floor. That was the day of his initiation. He says there are much more of them now. In college, Mercado reconnected with this world and made the worst mistake a beginner could make. He introduced his friends to the dark arts. That was the moment the idea for Kingdom Corporate was born. We see Jorge standing somewhere and seeing a red light shine through an opening. It is the first time we observe a color in the film. He starts to undo whatever is blocking the light, to have more of it emitted. It vanishes in a short time like it was never there. Afterward, he walks over to Maria to learn where the family records are. She tells him they are useless. Collecting the records, he says he wants to try something. He asks how many kids the senator has. Maria says he has 2 daughters. He asks if she is certain about it before he asks her more questions concerning how many children certain people have. She gives several answers and tells him to stop. Jorge says he is trying something, but he doesn't say what it is. Back to the program, Daniel says something called the satanic panic is mass hysteria. It is the fear placed in people's minds that there is a clear material enemy. He says in horror movies, there was always a demonic theme, thus he gives some of the more apparent movies with it, like The Omen. In his book, Daniel explains that people have attempted to benefit from this fear. He thinks this is the case with Mercado. The man places his absurd ideas to create a potential religious empire. Mercado responds with a strange statement. He says it has been 4 years since they have stopped living in Argentina. Laughing, Daniel inquires where they are living if not there. Mercado says he cannot explain to an aunt that they currently reside in a TV studio. He adds the same thing happened to the senator, who doesn't have any memories of his daughter. The reason is that she no longer exists in this reality. The same would have happened to the John Doe. Mercado's partner erased his identity, yet his body remained. Then Abel phones the previously mentioned Danny to say he is ready. Meanwhile, the anchorman interrupts Mercado, saying they have a call. Abel is surprised to learn the phone line is gone. The caller on the show is a woman who asks Mercado if he is aware that an unspecified they do something indecent to his daughter, whom she proceeds to insult. The call gets cancelled because of the woman's indecency, and Maria says Mercado does not have a daughter. Soon Abel perceives a grotesque Mercado on the TV. He emits a strange sound, prompting Abel to say Mercado spoke to him. He has to go elsewhere out of shock. Jorge approaches him to ask if there are any children on the farms. Abel says there weren't, and Jorge demands to know what he saw. Abel just says they need to go back inside due to it not being safe outside. On the television, Daniel asks Mercado why he thinks the world is about to end. Mercado says it's the world as they know it. The dream will be over. Someone he calls the Magus does not want this world to perish. The Magus is the true leader of the group. Having had enough, Daniel says if Mercado is a warlock, he should prove it. Mercado starts by saying he can see through Daniel like a crystal. The first thing he sees is fear, but Daniel says he feels very calm. Mercado believes the sociologist knows all the things Mercado said tonight are true. He says there was an interview Daniel didn't dare to publish. If certain interviews are not in his book, Daniel responds, it is because they are from delusional people. Once Mercado says people like Daniel's wife, the man agrees. He calls her his ex-wife. According to Mercado, she sees much more now. Shortly after, Mercado touches his nose in a certain way, and Daniel begins to experience trouble. His sudden suffering causes the network to go to a commercial. Maria says it must have been a coincidence, a statement Abel disagrees with. He says Von Merkens thinks they are warlocks. He knows what he witnessed on the farms. Maria wonders if Mercado is playing insane. Lucio thinks he could have been speaking in code. Lucio answers the ringing phone, and Natalia tells him the car she mentioned earlier passed a few more times. Then a man exited it. He is currently standing on a corner across the street, wearing dark glasses. She worriedly says he is crossing the street and seemingly coming at her. Thankfully, the tension resolves with her saying it was merely a man meeting a woman. They are leaving while holding hands. When the program returns, the anchorman says Daniel is sent to the hospital. Moving along, he asks Mercado what his relationship with Velasco is. Alas, the remaining guest says he can't answer this question. Therefore, the anchorman asks who John Doe is and why was he assassinated. That is not what they arranged for this show, answers Mercado. The anchorman at least wants to know who Eduardo Alonso is. He reminds his guest that they have sent someone to look for what Mercado needs in exchange for him sharing certain information. But Mercado says they don't have what he needs. This makes the anchorman press him to help them find it. Mercado tells him he has to understand that an unspecified they are watching this program, and they at the studio have no time. Soon, Mercado agrees to talk. However, the television goes to static. Lucio thinks they are taken off the air. The anchorman is informed it wasn't the network that did this. He asks Mercado if he has anything to do with this happening. For an unknown reason, the man is shaking. During this odd moment, a bang takes place at the team's door, alarming them. No one answers it, and they are all scared with the constant knocks. Once the knocking stops, Maria opens the door to see no one is there. Yet, we observe a grotesque being standing. It is the same one Abel perceived on the TV. Sitting inside, Maria says she has no clue what is going on. Maria adds that she would not mind if she never saw her teammates again after tonight. She believes what they are doing has nothing to do with journalism. This is the moment she takes the tannin route. The lady follows this by dialing her mother on the landline. Her mom asks if she will see Maria like the latter promised. But Maria says it depends on what happens before midnight. Her mom says that people say Maria is the lover of the anchorman, whom the mother insults. She thought she knew her daughter until Maria started this ridiculous thing. Maria wants her mom to give her the phone number of her uncle. She promises to visit if she receives the number. Thus, the woman gives it to her. As soon as she asks her daughter what time she is coming, Maria ends the call. Afterward, she phones her uncle, who asks her what she wants. She informs him that Mercado has introduced Velasco to alternate business techniques. The uncle guesses she means witchcraft. Maria does not believe that part of the story. However, she claims to have proof of several other bad things. She tells him to keep watching the program so he can open a case. The man wants to know where she is, but Maria says she can't say until the show is over. She will contact him at midnight and he will arrive at 1 a.m. to collect certain files the team is keeping. Subsequently, Abel tells the group to cover their eyes along with their ears. When they do it, he plays the recorder Maria probably saw earlier. He instructs them how to sit and how to breathe. Lucio starts to see a bright red dot. The experience makes him feel uneasy. Therefore, he yells to Abel to take him out. He spots someone holding a knife, and his head turns into a lifeless slump. The image is full of redness. Switching to Maria, she imagines herself outside somewhere. A man is with her at a gate, saying an unspecified they can't hide something anymore and are running out of energy. What they are trying to hide is starting to leak. He shows Maria a photo of John Doe. Out of her memory, the phone rings, which Abel answers. Due to hearing strange sounds, he drops the receiver. He sees the front door open by itself and a red light existing outside. Inexplicably, his head becomes covered with twigs. A giant tentacle starts to enter the house that looks like it belongs to an octopus. Shifting to Jorge, he says nothing is happening to him. Yet he quickly appears in a room with all of his team. The man Maria was with was there to show them photos of a house. He says although it is empty, it isn't abandoned. Jorge says Mercado confirmed the house, but he has no access. Once Jorge asks where Abel is, Natalia asks who he is. This instantly causes Jorge to return to reality in a panic. He has to vomit. Then he sees Abel lying on the floor. Maria is holding her injured neck, telling Jorge that Abel is one of the warlocks. She says he has taken Lucio's life and tried to take hers. Jorge asks her if Natalia ever called, prompting Maria to shake her head. We see Natalia walking along the street while a mysterious man follows her. She turns at the corner of the street to lose him. Reaching it in a short time, the stranger is surprised by Natalia's absence. He calls out her name, saying Lucio sent him. He adds that Lucio's phone has broken and he cannot reach her. We see her hiding as the man says he has the address. He suddenly finds her, making the scared lady resume walking away. He says there is nowhere for her to go. Soon she turns around with a gun to shoot him down. Having done that, Natalia runs away. Back to the two survivors, Jorge tells Maria he wants to try something again. He asks how many children the senator has, and this time she says he has 3 daughters. But we see he is looking at the written number 2. When he asks about the judge's kids, she says he also has 3. However, 2 is the number she had written sometime in the past. She asks what happened to them with concern. Jorge answers it's the same thing that will happen to everyone during the midnight rally. He says the unspecified they are taking the children. He asks Maria if she remembers what year she graduated, a question she cannot answer. She feels uneasy, and he says that dreadful phrase, the future is over. Afterward, Natalia enters a building, where she opens a box to look inside. We don't see what she sees. In the next scene, the program returns to television. The anchorman is sad to announce they have come back just to apologize because they have failed the audience. At the house, the team is phoned by Natalia. Hearing her say she remembers everything, she needs Jorge to call the network to speak to Danny. The anchorman asks Mercado what he thinks is going to happen. Mercado talks to the camera, saying things will get worse. The Magus is going to seal a new deal, and everything will start over. He believes the Magus will likely keep making deals until their existence is reduced to a lifeless shell. He gets interrupted by Natalia coming on the set. She gives a cell phone to the anchorman, and he asks Mercado if it is what he is looking for. Since Mercado wants the phone very much, he receives it. He uses it to call his daughter, asking if she is okay. Now the anchorman is prepared to read several statements he wants Mercado to confirm. The first is that he wants to know if President Velasco is a warlock, and Mercado says he is. The second statement asks if Velasco came to power by using black magic, with which he assassinated his opposition. Mercado confirms this too, but his mind is with his daughter. He instructs her to quickly go to his library. Although the anchorman keeps reading more questions, Mercado does not care. He wants his daughter to find a thin book. It is titled, Things We Lost in the Fire. Mercado wants the girl to read a certain word in the book, and it seems to be of paramount importance to him. He speaks to the camera again to tell the viewers to raise the volume on their televisions, so Jorge does this on his TV. Mercado proclaims he regrets everything he has done. He tries to talk further, yet the program abruptly ends. Jorge hears shots getting fired outside, causing him to go there. Maria stays near the television, crying. Switching to the studio, Mercado isn't there anymore. Smoke has taken his place. We observe something even more bizarre. The anchorman is now colorful. He looks at himself and is amazed to see the color, meaning they all knew they were living in a colorless reality. The film ends with us seeing a colorful Natalia. She too looks amazed to see the strange phenomenon we call color surrounding her. Their world is forever changed.